Welcome to another episode of the Rosefellow Podcast, episode 21. It's gone by quick. 21 episodes already of these podcasts is very, very impressive. Today's episode is the co-CEO dynamic. Lessons learned by Mike and Sam on our partnership. Longevity. It feels like yesterday we started this.
And there is a dynamic to being co-CEOs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Some interesting stories.
The wins, the losses, from the get-go, it seems like yesterday that we had a lot of those sleepless nights worrying about we're going to be able to turn on the lights in the morning. But it's been a heck of a ride. So with me today, obviously, my partner in crime, Sam Tsoumas, myself, Mike Jager. Thank you all for listening in. If we were to look back at the beginning, how did we initially meet and what was our first impressions of each other? Can you remember going back that far?
I don't know when we first met. No, actually, I'm sorry. I think I do. It was when I was in my past employers. I remember in the summer, we used to host all the brokerage houses every Wednesday on the terrace. And I remember that was the first time I met you. I remember you had come in as a broker at CB. And I even remember where you sat. You sat at the first table closest to the door, right in the middle, with a couple of other industry veterans that I'd say today are friends of yours and ours. And I remember that was the first time I met you as a broker.
That's very true.
The second time after that was actually when you had joined your former employer. And I remember I was thinking, him?
Yeah. It's, I do remember that invite where I came in as I'll call it a rookie, a real estate broker when I worked at CBRE. And just very nervous. I was just starting in real estate and getting invited by a big developer to a dinner. It was very impressive, and but I do remember the first time I saw you as a competitor was at an SIR event, a real estate conference event downtown Montreal, and we each had a booth that we were I guess watching over, and I'd look over and see what kind of trinkets you were giving away and what I was giving away, how your flyers look compared to mine, and remember even calling home and saying, you should see this guy in his jeans and his blazer and tie. Pretty boy is what I'd call it. Look at a pretty boy with his hair and his jeans. So that was the onset.
And I remember those trinkets and booths. I remember in one of the earlier ones, might even be that one, your booth, you had like probably today's standards, like a 12-inch screen in your booth. And I was like, damn it, how didn't I think of that?
Fast forward from that initial time that we met to when we actually decided to take the leap of faith and leave our very stable and well-paying jobs to make a crazy decision in many people's eyes to start Rosefellow.
I'll say this. You just mentioned well-paying. While they weren't bad, I don't think they were well-paying. I think it was more of, we were, heads of development, head of sales. So the money that was earned there was earned. So the fact that we did well for ourselves is because we hustled, we pushed, we made sure that every broker, every tenant, every RFP, we were at the top or at the forefront. So we earned what we made.
Absolutely.
And I think, at least I'll speak for myself, one of the driving factors was that the comfort that we had been the ones that sourced a lot of our own revenues back then. Yes, we had the infrastructure to help us. But the fact that, you for your group and myself for mine were the ones that really did the deals, made it a lot easier to say, we could still make money doing this.
It was the other thing that would keep me up at night as well was, okay, how many deals or what would it take to keep the lights on in our office that we would have to rent or open, to keep the mortgage paid, to keep the bills paid, to keep the kids in school. That was going through my mind. What will we have to do? And I remember we had the discussion. And what did we tell ourselves?
2 years.
2 years. And how many deals? I remember that.
2 deals, one residential and one industrial.
Exactly.
But another thing that we did, I'd say, outside of the norm for a startup was we actually budgeted every expense, including our salaries.
Yep.
I mean, evidently a reduced salary, but we did have a salary in our expenses for the first 2 years. And that was huge. I mean, we really did look at this from day one as a true company of, 10, 20 people, not just of 2 or 3.
Absolutely. And you're right. And, we set that goal is to do, which was to do one residential and one industrial project. And lo and behold, we were able to make that happen. But I think what we did that was special was what you said. One, we looked at our company as if it was $1 billion business, even though we didn't earn a dollar. And two, we spent the first couple of months in business not looking for sites. It was just nurturing the people we met over the 10, 15 years prior. And we went, if you remember, we went, we met every investor, property owner we knew in Montreal. We went to Toronto. We went to New York and just introduced ourselves. And it was funny because everybody had the same comment. What are you here to do? Are you looking for money? Do you have a site to present? And we said, no. All we're looking for is the opportunity that when we call you with that opportunity, with that site, with that partnership opportunity, just take our call.
Just take the call.
Yeah. It was a simple ask, and no one said no. They're like, absolutely. Here's my mobile number. Here's my cell number. This is from the heads of real estate and some of the big life co-companies to family offices. They all said yes.
I also remember another goal of ours. This is talking day one, was to be the biggest industrial developer in Quebec at year 5. Obviously, it was a very lofty goal. And biggest is always subjective.
Yeah.
Is it dollar volumes? Is it number of square footage? I don't think we'll ever be satisfied with that goal. Because again, it's a very subjective goal to reach. But I would probably say that we're at least up there in some of those categories.
Absolutely. And if you remember as well, you said biggest industrial. When we started this, my heart was in residential.
Yes.
I looked at that and saying the biggest in multi-res, and you said industrial, which was great because it complemented each other's visions of how we want to grow the company, which was not just one facet of real estate, industrial. We looked at it and said we can do multi-res, we can do industrial, and we'll let the market dictate what will be at the forefront.
Absolutely. And industrial was at the onset of exploding in our province. So, from my side of it, I was very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The other thing that we don't really talk about is what made each of us decide that the other was a good partner for us. What are those traits?
Yeah.
I knew what mine was really, really quick. I think you're one of the smartest people I know. And what
the smartest
first, right after me. But it was amazing to watch you dissect numbers, dissect pro formas, and find ways to get things happen that no one else can or could. And to even some of these partnership groups that we've met along the years, where they even go, wow, I didn't look at it that way, or I didn't see it that way. That was the comfort for me, because I'm a sales guy at heart. I love building relationships. I love nurturing relationships. I love marketing. I love branding. That's my true passion. I'll bring a deal and I'll be so excited about it. And you're the one that will say it's a go, no go, based on what the pro forma dictates, what the numbers dictate. And let me tell you, you found ways when everybody else would say this doesn't make sense. You see the passion in a project I have, and you're like, fuck, we got to make it work, Mike. I know you can make it work because I see the passion you have for it. Let's find a way.
Well, I think that goes from when we decide to go into business together, and I mean, there's no exact moment that saying, oh, okay, we're starting a company. It was more, I think, a accumulation of a few months of talks, suppers with our wives. Getting to know each other. I actually found an email recently from my personal email account to your old personal email account from 2011 that we went back and forth saying, hey, let's go grab a coffee. And I think we went from coffee to supper, and we ended up, and I was looking at the trail, breakfast. We ended up going for breakfast, and I read where? We went to Cosmopolitan in Laval.
Wow. Yeah.
And I can say from my side, exactly what you just said about our dynamic is exactly what I was what I found why we would work. I'm always viewed as the one, the numbers and that, but it was more that we both had passion for the deal. We both, when we love something, we love it. And it includes any real estate transaction. It didn't matter if it was a lease of 4,000 feet or 4 million square feet or, 500,000 feet. It's like you and I would each take our strengths, sit down and figure out a way to get it done. And I knew no matter what, your heart was there. So if we said, let's go do it, let's go figure out how to get it, you'd find a way to get it. We complemented each other in an incredible way.
Absolutely. And I think, that's probably one of the reasons why this partnership works well while others fail is because of that. But also we made a pact very early on in this partnership that if we can't come to terms on a deal, we pass. No matter how how adamant you are to tell me it works, or vice versa. We would sit down in the boardroom, we'd close the doors and say, we got to leave here mutually agreeing to go, no go. And if we don't agree, we're going to pass.
I think we actually took it a step further. I think we said all dispute resolution was based on if one said yes, one said no. And I always use the analogy, like if we wanted to choose toilet paper brands and one said yes and one said no, it was an automatic no. In my opinion, it works great for anything we do. And it doesn't mean that the other person can't challenge or argue with the person, say, this is why I think it's a yes. But at the end of the day, a no is a no. And I think that's worked well. But I don't think that's the key to why we've actually been able to work well. Because again, there's a honeymoon phase and then there's, the turbulent periods, but there's always ups and downs in any partnership. Why were we able to work well? Very simply, in my opinion, was trust. We each handle very different aspects of the business. And I've noticed that, you never really got involved in my side and I never got involved in your side, not because we couldn't do it. You are very capable of speaking with partners. You're very capable of speaking with attorneys. I knew that when you were doing what you needed to do, you did absolutely the best to your abilities, which were equal to mine and vice versa. So I had no worry. And it didn't matter if I didn't always agree or you didn't always agree. There was an absolute trust. And we didn't get involved in each other's side of the business. And that to me was what was key, especially at those first early years where, we may want to prove ourselves, ego a little bit. And I noticed that even to this day, that's what makes us work.
Absolutely. And, that's what's amazing, because it was a natural progression. We never sat down and defined roles and said, okay, you're going to do this and I'm going to do this. We started, we both were incredible at sales, but you can't just be two great salespeople in a company. There's got to be more. And we made a natural evolution to kind of create our own roles within the company. And to your point, because of that trust that we had, we respected each other and we were able to focus on what we do best. What would you say are the pros and cons of us sharing power within the company?
I think the pros here is, for our team, we're very different but very alike at the same way. So there's a dynamic in our group where you could see, where sometimes people will lean towards you for certain things and then lean towards me. But they do see us as both capable leaders. And I've never found that we had an issue, who's the 1A or 1B. We're just both ones within our company and just viewed differently. And I think the strengths of that is it allows our company to be looked at differently. There's not one head with a committee. It's two that have a common goal. And the fact that our goals are so aligned, I think brings everybody's will to succeed a lot more.
I agree. And the other thing too, some of the pros that you and I have is that we're so passionate about real estate. We will be at the office for 12, 14 hours together, working at whatever we have to do in a day. Get in the car 5 minutes after we were together all day.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone, call each other. Okay, but let's think this through. Let's think that through. And we've never been, and maybe this is a default, but we've never been satisfied.
No, we don't celebrate the wins. We never did enough, and that's a shame.
It is, but we tried. Can't say we didn't try. I remember once someone told us that you guys should celebrate the wins. You have an incredible track record. We were at a lunch meeting
in the car,
and driving back to the office, and after someone just told us that, and we said, hey, we need to celebrate this one. This is huge. We high-fived each other in the car.
And literally, I think a minute later, the phone rang or something, and we're like, it was forgotten.
We're on to the next. So that's probably one of those traits that I wouldn't suggest. But what that's given us, and we both have the same character when it comes to this, is that we've always ran this company and we always look at every deal like we're in second place. Yes. We never thought we were better than anyone. We never thought that it was a guaranteed win. We always looked at every project, even today, almost 6 years later. We always look at it as like, someone's out to get us. Someone's going to get a better deal. What do we do? How do we do it better?
We were talking about, company goals and objectives a few days ago. Mm-hmm. And I think like between us, we were even mentioning via email, and exchanges, like we still got to think of ourselves as a startup because we're still the underdog.
You're right.
And I think that mentality has been what's key for us to be able to continuously persevere, to try to get more and push more and, do a little better and believe in better.
Yeah.
Cons, it's hard to find cons. You know what I would say sometimes maybe roles for employees. I think that sometimes it could be a con. I have a vision for a certain employee. You have a different vision.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I'm not sure there's actually many cons.
The one thing that I think it does make us stand out as partners is we respect the decision the other one makes. You may say this is, we got to change the way we're looking at things or change the way we're analyzing the numbers, and I'll give you the confidence, say, okay, go. I think that's what's helped us over time. How would you say we manage the differences in risk tolerances or our business growth strategies?
How we manage tough decisions and how we manage each other?
Business growth strategy is an interesting one because at a certain point we started thinking about expanding outside of the province of Quebec, and it was a natural progression into Ontario. But that leap into Ontario, we both had different views. I was thinking Toronto, you were thinking Ottawa, and we both agreed. It was a great decision to take on the Ottawa market. But it's always we then took the step to the United States. We had different ideas on what states we should be focusing on. What's helped us as well is that we're always, in my opinion, open-minded to listen to everyone. It's not just Mike and Sam.
Yeah.
We sit down, we understand the data from our analysts, we understand the input we get from the brokerage community outside of the province, outside of the country, and our own team. Our own team sometimes says, guys, we flew down to such and such a state. It doesn't feel right.
I actually don't think we ever had any difficulties in agreeing on growth from the very beginning. I mean, we mentioned it just before in this podcast where we said we wanted to be the biggest developers. You don't be the biggest by just staying in your nook. I actually have always been in favor of expanding, whether it be the U.S. or different provinces of Canada. I think more of where we've had differences is a strategy of growth. Do you go all in? Do you do it slowly? Do you grow organically, or do you just hit it with a splash? But outside of that, I mean, I don't think we've ever had tough decisions to make on the growth.
How would you describe a moment where our partnership was truly tested, and how do we overcome it?
Oh boy,
I can think of one.
Okay.
We narrowed down our search for the United States down to one state. And we were both in agreement. Let's do this. We got on a plane. We went down. We toured the air. We toured the market. It was great. For me, it's done. My mind was set. I'm on to the next state. This one's done. We're going to buy the site. We're going to develop it. But where's the next one? Because it's never enough. We need to do more. And we do at Rosefellow every 2 weeks. We get together. Our executive team gets together. We have breakfast on a Saturday or a Sunday, and we just talk about what's going on, talk about what we should do next. And that's when you sat down and break and said, you know what, it doesn't feel right. Something doesn't feel right. Yeah. Because you had gone back a second time. You're like, I did the tour and it doesn't feel right. And for me, this was a fait accompli.
You were not happy about it.
I was not happy.
I remember that breakfast.
Because for me, it was a fait accompli. We agreed. We moved on. Why we looking back and making a change? And it's kind of like we hit the brakes. We got to go back. Why are we going back? And I remember we were arguing over breakfast at the restaurant. We've agreed on this. Why are we looking back? And you kept, Mike, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And I was stubborn and I was hard-headed. And it took me time, not over breakfast. That was a Saturday. Monday morning came in. I said, you know what? I'm getting too emotional on this. I'm getting too attached to this, to the relationships we made in the state and to the site. And I'm not looking at it from 30,000 feet where you had the opportunity to do that. And you looked at it. And we agreed. And the agreement was, let's have 3 calls with 3 experts in that area. And let's let them tell us what they think.
And those calls were actually funny because a lot of the experts were kind of skirting around the real answer. But I remember the last one. They were like, walk.
Yeah.
We're like, okay.
Well, you asked the question. He went on for 25 minutes. There's this, there's these positive, these negatives. And you just said, can I stop you? I remember, let me stop you. What would you do in our shoes? Go, no go. Without hesitation, he said, no go, pass. And we both agreed. We stepped out of that meeting and said, you know what? No, you were right. I got emotional on this one, and we do have to pass. And it was a tough decision.
I would say, I'm the hothead of the two. I'm very emotional when it comes to things I don't agree with. So I could see how sometimes that may be a struggle for you. I think that's been a test, let's say, on your side. Here's one. Funny enough, in my opinion, the biggest test we had was within the first 6 months of the formation of Rosefellow, which was the pandemic. I remember, we had just started. We had put in basically our life savings in it. We're paying ourselves a salary. And I remember the pandemic started, and we lost some of our early investors due to the nature of the pandemic, where uncertainty ruled. And I remember for 1 month, the first month that we were fully closed, and I was working from my home, and we would try to meet when we could and talk, but generally we were each working from each other's homes. And 1 month away from the office was really an office of 3.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really an office at this point. It was just a dream. But I remember working from home like within a couple of months, and only for 1 month, never going into the office. I think that was, to me, the biggest challenge. Like, after that month, did we still have a company? Did we still have the belief? And I remember we came back, but the incredible thing in hindsight was I don't ever feel like we gave up or we thought this wasn't going to work, or it was like, okay, this is like, can't wait to get back to the office. And I think that was a big test for us.
I think, and I don't know if we've ever spoken about this. I think one of the reasons you and I took that leap of faith to start Rosefellow was our upbringing. Your dad was an entrepreneur who basically worked night and day.
Yep.
My dad was the same thing. Came here with nothing, sweeping floors, and worked his way up to owning his company. But it was just watching him kind of manage all these people and have a company. But at the same time, I think what gave me the fear to always think I'm in second place and to always have that mindset was, I remember growing up, and I was probably 12 or 13, and I'd be going to bed at whatever, 9:30, and I can hear my parents talking in the kitchen, and my dad saying, I'm going to have to remortgage the house again and put more money into the company. I can't cover payroll. And again, and they were talking discreetly, hoping I wouldn't hear. But that fear at 12 and 13, I remember saying, when I grow up, I never want to have my kids have this anxiety, this fear. And that was my upbringing. This is the way I was raised to hear these struggles of being an owner of a company. So when we started this, it was always, okay, we got to do everything we can. I'm not going to sleep. We got to deal. When's the next one? Let's do the next one, because is it enough? Do we have enough to cover payroll, to pay for our homes? And fortunately, I think that helped us. I mean, you have the same work ethic. I remember at the onset, the first couple of deals, you'd be on a call till 2 a.m, working numbers, and call me at 6 o'clock, 4 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep. I figured it out. This is how we can do it. This is what we're going to present.
Truth is, most people would have been very satisfied with what we, were fortunate enough to complete within the first 24 months. Most people would have been satisfied. For us, it wasn't never the volume. That wasn't our goal. It wasn't the volume. It was just first of all, I think the goal was to pay the light, to turn on the lights. But I think we're just so hungered by the transaction and being able to do another transaction, being able to work with another developer, another partner, another tenant. I think that's what really always drove us. Another thing that I think really worked well for us was we never thought of ourselves as the best, either between each other or within our own company.
True.
I think we both have always said it. If we're the smartest people in the room, it's the wrong room to be in. And we've always tried to hire people with like-minded goals, but who are smart, young, dynamic. And if their opinions were better than ours for whatever, we had no problem saying, you know what, go with that. And I think that worked well for both of us. None of us really ever had an ego.
That's true.
And ego's big. Ego's the death of success, in my opinion.
Absolutely. The other thing that was fun at the onset, we both knew we didn't have much more than each other and the context we had. And we said, well, how are we going to sell ourselves? How are we going to sell this new brand, this Rosefellow? And we said, you know what, we're going to go all in on marketing and branding. And we're going to do podcasts, and we're going to do, we're going to try to get our name out there. And fortunately, we couldn't say, oh, look at this site that we have, look at this property we're developing, look at this building we've just bought or this we just leased. We didn't have it. What we did have was the same perception of real estate, was that the owners of companies were hiding behind kind of closed doors. And you and I wanted to be open book and let people know who we were.
Well, that was one of those first decisions that were a little tough for me to swallow. And as much as I love what Cataran does, and they've been with us from day one, I can tell you that was your decision. And God, I had troubles filming. I don't like filming. For all of you who know me, I really don't like presentations. I don't like filming. And you were adamant. This is the way. This is the way. And I was doing it because I knew you were right. Still doesn't mean I like it.
And the evolution of Sam Tsoumas. The first podcast, the first videos we did, you would stay up all night memorizing the question and the answers. And if someone behind the camera would deviate from that script, wow, did we see Sam get into
the angry version of me.
The aggravation, the stress, and just to get you calm and get your shoulders.
Don't change the subject.
Don't change the topic.
Change the question.
Well, you know, that wasn't the way the question is supposed to be read. It was, and to today, where you can, you know, you'll get a script. You'll
still don't like it.
You'll look at the questions. You know, you won't prepare because it'll come natural. And we'll sit down and we'll get a podcast done. I said that's incredible to see that change in Sam.
You know what's changed I've seen in you? You always had this exuberance. You know, whether it be naturally when you speak or on camera, you have a natural exuberance. You move your hands like I'm doing my hand movements now, but you used to do it from day one. Now you're a lot more polished, a lot more refined. There's an air of confidence in you that you didn't have back then, and it only adds to the exuberance. You've actually become significantly better, whether it be on camera or even you know, in presentations.
I think this is one thing that we can look back on and be very proud that we did and made the decision to do, because to this day, you know, we hear many others out there who try to do this. I don't think people understand how much time you got to dedicate to do the marketing, to do the branding like we do. This is done. I mean, this is a constant. We spend, you know, I personally spend, when it comes to marketing and branding, at least 2 hours a day, above and beyond the real estate side of it.
For sure.
This is an investment you have to do, not only financially, but your time, and it's got to be continuous. It can't just be, well, I'll do a podcast this month and we'll think about it next. It's got to be.
And this is exactly what we were saying before, where we each handled a different part of the business and we allowed each other full ability to do what we thought was best. Well, the marketing was you, and that you just say you spent, you know, 2 hours a day. I don't doubt it. You know, I see every facet of this business, and it gets better and better, and it looks better and better. And yes, I chime in, I give my opinions, but you have to be able to sit down and do it, and sit with the marketing teams and look at every aspect. That's all been you.
How would you say our partnership influenced the culture within Rosefellow?
Oh, I think it does every day. I mean, ourselves, you know, like just the way we dress. I mean, I think that alone, you could see it, the vibe, the work ethic. We've always been very, you know, an open door policy in the sense that, you know, you could come and go as you please. You know, if you have a family emergency, please go take it. But everybody works to get their work done and then has fun. I just think everything about our characters, the way we started the company, whether we were 3 or 15, I just see everybody emanates that same culture.
What I appreciate the most is how they've all taken responsibility. They don't feel they need to come to us for every decision, and we experienced that just recently with our 2 directors in construction.
Yes,
Brian and Julian. How, you know, they each have several projects under their belt, but we were going to do another deal with a tenant, which was in Julian's building, but Brian had done the first one. And without coming to talk to us or see us or get approval, because they don't need any, they sat down on their own, made a decision. Well, listen, I'm going to take over this project, even though it's your building. Let me do it. I know the tenant. I have a relationship with them. And I mean, it was beautiful to watch, just to see them sit down and figure it out together. You know, we've always said it's, you know, we expect everyone to grasp every aspect of the business. And we don't want anybody to feel like they got to come to us for every decision. It's okay to make a mistake.
Yeah, it's okay to make a mistake. You know, we learn from mistakes. We've all made mistakes, including myself, numerous times. What I appreciate the most is, you know, we talk about this non-silo approach. I think it extends past, you know, your work functions. It's everybody who's here in the company. I've noticed we've all taken on that, you know, that responsibility that whatever's best for the file is how the file will be managed. So if a construction person needs to jump into finances because they have the connection, or finance jumps into meeting with the tenant, or I just noticed although we all have specific roles, it seems like on any specific deal, our roles could change.
Absolutely.
And everybody seems to embrace that. And I love that part of it.
Absolutely. What's the most underrated skill or quality necessary in a successful business partnership, do you think?
Well, skill, I would say patience. I mean, that's an easy one. Confidence, trust. Funny enough, I think also I have to say, outside of our ability to, run the day-to-day business, and we each have good moments and bad moments, and that's part of life. I think it's what's behind us. Funny enough, our home base. One thing you and I have both been fortunate has been a very strong home base. And again, in ups and downs, the home base allows us to have that free mind. It's not every partner that would allow, their partner, their significant other to go off and leave, and kudos to your spouse and mine. Say, after we weren't young, we're relatively successful, and to say, go do this, guys. We believe in you. It starts from there. The hard nights. It starts from there. They said, go do what you need to do. And even today, we're 5-6 years in, and they still understand if we have to go, if we have to leave, if we have to travel.
No questions asked.
And there's no questions asked. I think that gives us the mindset to allow us to do that. And I think that's a skill in the sense that not everybody's fortunate to have that. It allowed us to have an open mind. Outside of that, skills to have, I think the ability to talk to people. You need to be able to communicate.
You always got to be selling. You're always a salesman in everything you do. You're selling.
We sell each other.
We're always selling to each other. We're selling to banks. We're selling to investors. We're selling to tenants. We're always selling. I know
when you're selling me, by the way. So Michael come in and be like, Sam, I spoke to so-and-so, and they had this great idea. And the funniest thing is he told me about it 3 days ago, but now so-and-so had this idea. I'm like, okay, I got it.
I think another underrated skill that's so valuable to start a business, to run a business, is discipline.
Yes.
Discipline in everything you do. Discipline for me is key, because we get thrown so many opportunities, and it's easy to say yes to everything. It is extremely hard to say no, especially to people that especially to potential partners, especially in our own lives. I mean, you and I are very disciplined to the extent. I mean, we used to train together at 5:30, 6 in the morning. Unfortunately, since you had back surgery,
you're train as much.
You're on the sidelines for a little bit, but I'm sure you'll be back.
I've started actually.
There you go.
I started back.
But from the way we train to our mindset to be able to say no. Because we hear so many people saying, "Oh yeah, so and so is looking at my property, and he he's not sure if he's going to move forward or back." We have, I think, that discipline to, no matter how close a broker, or an investor is, or a property owner will say, it's just not what we're focusing on right now.
Well, one thing I've picked up on you that seems to have been a challenge for you, and I think it'll be a challenge for you forever, is you're always the nice guy. You're always the salesman.
True. And
salesmen always have to have a smile. And there's been moments where you have to be the bad guy.
Absolutely.
And I could
that's
see
when
that.
I call you in.
Yeah, but I could see you do it.
Yeah.
But I could see how you feel very uncomfortable with it.
Absolutely. If we can give our younger versions of ourselves advice about business partnerships, what would it be?
Why don't you answer it first there?
You know what? Don't try to duplicate yourself. A lot of people look for the same person they are. Well, if someone can sell as much as I do, it's golden. It's not the case. You got to find a partner who can complement your assets, your the great things you do, and the things you do not as good. That's an ideal partner who can fill in those gaps, in my opinion. And you got to have respect. In the sense that you got to give the respect to the person saying he can make the decision, and I trust that decision because he thought of his, he's putting himself in my shoes as well.
Yep. I think it starts back, like I mentioned before, the home base. I think the home bases of both partners need to be aligned on what, where they want the company to grow. And I think the partners also have to be aligned. As long as you're aligned on where you want to be, 5 years, 10 years from now, anything in the middle is usually just a speed bump. Because as long as the end goal is there, and how we get to that end goal could be differences. Yeah. But, if we say we want to be here, I think that solves a lot of the problems. It's usually getting there where people falter.
It's a very good point. And an example is, do you build a building, lease it, and sell it, or do you hold long term? Those simple questions have got to be defined and answers discussed beforehand. If that can't even be settled, the company is going nowhere. And that's where I think so many businesses fail. And sometimes what you need to do is you need to put a pause, and that could be after a year, after 5 years, after 10, and say, okay, what does the next 5 years look like? Do we have the same vision? It could change. And if it's going to change, are we both aligned with the next 5 years? We've looked at that at the onset. We didn't have the financial structure that we do have today, and infrastructure, I should say. And we said, you know what, we're gonna build, we're gonna stabilize, and we're gonna sell, and we're gonna build that capital.
So here I have one for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, in the context of this question, so you can't say nothing.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to change one thing, if you had to redo something or a decision you made that you regret, have to pick one, what would you change?
If I had to change one thing in the way we structure our business,
in anything in the last 5 years,
I'd probably look at retaining more of the assets. I know we look back, it'd probably be impossible to do because we built the capital we did by selling.
Yeah.
I'd probably look at retaining some of those assets a little more and just tightening our belts by being able to do so and not selling, to build a portfolio early on. Now we're doing that today.
Yeah.
We're building an incredible portfolio across Canada. But that's would have been the thing I would have probably changed going back.
I guess mine would be, again, you only see things in hindsight. I think we really were in the golden era of industrial. I think we should have pushed a little more, in hindsight, maybe pushed more in Ontario, pushed more in other provinces. I think we actually could have done a lot more. Again, fear, we were starting out, whether it be a year in, 2 years. But if you think at a year or 2 years in, how much different, how much more active the market was with the passion that we had and have. I actually think we would have done more. And again, you say this in hindsight. At one point, we had 7 developments with 4 people.
What's crazy about what you're saying, and this will give people an idea of the type of people you and I are. 5 years, 22 development projects, 35 million square feet of developable land, $3.5 billion of real estate. And your comment is we didn't do enough. That gives everyone a sense of how crazy we are when we think we could probably do more. So it's a great comment, and it's true. We could have probably found another hour or 2 out of sleep to add into this.
It's been very thankful. It's just I think of when are we ever going to get back there? And it's going to come. I believe in everything that we do. It's just it was like the golden era, and you think back of it as almost this golden age of industrial. And it's like if only we could have done one more.
That's true.
2 more.
That's true. So how do we plan to evolve our partnership as the company grows?
I think we're going to have to. Or we won't succeed. I don't see us being able to grow at the rate that we want to and not evolve. I think one is letting go a little more. Now we trust each other implicitly in what we do. I think we're going to actually have to learn to trust each other implicitly in a person handling a specific office. Yeah. So I don't see how you could possibly grow and be as successful in another country or province as you are in Montreal unless you're almost full time there.
That's right.
To do that, it definitely means one of us spending much less time in Montreal. Mm-hmm. And that has to come with trust. Trust that the person in Montreal is going to take care of Montreal, and vice versa. The trust from the person in Montreal, trusting the other person has the best interest of the company and will grow the company.
That's right.
I think that is the only way we can possibly grow at the level we are hoping to.
That's true. And I think the other thing too to add to that is I said earlier, it's about kind of taking a pause, sitting down, and we're doing that. We're doing that very, very soon. Yeah. We're taking our executive team. We're getting away from all the noise and we'll call it the technology pollution, and just putting a pause on that for 2 days to say, okay, let's relook at what the core values, the vision. Is everyone aligned? Does everybody understand? Everybody within our company, do they understand their vision? Let's do a refresh on that and have a clear indication to where we're going. And you're right, the company has grown exponentially to the extent that now we're going to be opening up offices in other countries. and it's going to take a lot of effort and time. It's, in my opinion, it's like starting at ground zero once again.
Another thing that I think can prove challenging, I think we've already spoken about it, over the past few years. We've mentioned how we want to handle it, how we think it's going to handle, but it's always different when you're talking about it versus when it actually, comes to you. I think our children. I think children could be potentially another golden era for our company, or possibly a dangerous period. Children coming in, and I think you and I are both aligned that we never felt our children should come in and be, granted or gifted, vice president roles. That's not how we see it. We believe our children should, go to school, get their degrees. If they like the field that we're in, go work, go learn somewhere, whether it be as attorneys or as architects or as draftsmen. It doesn't really matter. Go learn in the industry. But when our kids come in, there's always a dynamic there that's difficult to navigate between owners, and I've seen it firsthand and with family. I think that could prove a little bit challenging. The good part is that we have talked about it for years.
Absolutely, and we said it. There's no child of ours that's going to come out of school right into the business. They're going to have to, if they have passion for real estate, they're going to have to go work somewhere else for someone else. That'd be 3 to 5 years and gain that experience. And no one's getting anything gifted. That and you said it best. A diploma is just like a passport. Do you need a passport to get into another country?
Is it?
Absolutely. Does anyone ask where the passport came from? No. Same like that university degree. When you get it,
once you open it, they close it, and you move on.
Exact. But they do require that, and we're both hard on our kids when it comes to that. But no one's getting gifted anything within this company. They got to earn it. There's a lot of people here that spent years working for the opportunity to get to a certain role. No one's going to bypass that, even if it's blood. If we were to go to some rapid fire closing round questions.
Well, I want you to tell what you think. All right, so here. So in one word, describe each other's leadership style.
Focused when I talk about you. You have clear vision of exactly what you want to do. And when you have a message to the team, no one's steering you away from that idea you have.
Limitless. When I think of you, everybody, when I see the way you talk, the way you think, and the exuberance you have, it's like there is no limit to what we could do. It's like whatever we can imagine we could do. And I think people are very drawn by that exuberance that you convey.
Thank you. Okay. Complete opposite now. Biggest pet peeve.
Oh, that's easy.
About me.
Oh, that's easy. That's easy.
I don't like that.
In a good way. Discipline is a good thing. It could veer off. So your discipline sometimes extends to things that, in my view, should not be disciplined. You're very, very black and white. You don't live in grays. And the world sometimes isn't gray. So it's the discipline part where I said sometimes like, I just want to strangle you, but I love you.
Emotional. You get very, very, very emotional. Not in the sense that you'll cry over a deal, but when shit hits the fan, everyone, not in the office, in the building knows shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you appreciate most about your partner, this 6'4", shaved head stud of yours?
That too is also very easy. I appreciate the trust, the loyalty. I appreciate working with you. I think it's a gift in our respective careers, but in mine, that we were able to start this. And frankly, what you're good at are things that I fake being good at. So it's always been fun for me to watch, somebody who's naturally good at that, and it's made me better. So there's a lot to say.
For me, it's you always have my back, and I know because it can easily transcend to stories or times when you're with other people and talking, and people ask you a question about me, and I know for a fact you've never ever spoken bad, no. and that's rare because sometimes and often jealousy comes into play.
Yes.
And even though we make the same amount of money and we have the same role in the company, jealousy is still there for whatever reason. You've always had my back. You've always had my family's at heart. You
Same.
treat my family like they're yours. You treat my kids like they're your own. There was an incident not long ago, and Jen had fallen down the stairs, and I was at a dinner, and I never have my phone with me when I'm at dinner. I put it in my pocket or I'll put it on silent, but I will never keep my phone on the table. And I remember the waiter coming into the table, and he goes, "Mr. Jager," and I never even told him who I was. I felt all important because he probably saw one of the podcasts. He calls me Mr. Jager, and he says, "You have an emergency phone call. Can you come to the front?" And I remember looking at my phone. I saw 20 missed calls, and they said, "You got to come home. The ambulance is at the house." And when I got there, the first person that was there was you. You left whatever you were doing, and you rushed over, and I was just more anxious and upset about things.
You didn't know what I was doing, eh? Just to show how much I have your back. So I'm a big comic book geek. I was watching the new Captain America movie in the cinema. I got up and ran out.
But that's the type of person that Sam Tsoumas is, and that's the type of partner I have, and that's the type of, I'll call you the brother that I have, and that you can't put a price on. So thinking of that's the one thing I would tell anybody who's looking to go into partnership. If you're going to do due diligence, do it on your partner. Make sure it's not just a friend that you get along with. Think of every aspect of that person, and if it complements your qualities, because that's how you'll make a good partnership succeed.
All right, which one of us handles stress better? I don't know if that's easy. Like, I'm a lot more emotional, but I don't think it's a stress.
We don't handle it well. You people know when you're stressed. I keep it in, but I bottle it in, which doesn't help anybody because I cocoon. Yeah. And if I blow, it's like a horrible volcano that'll erupt. So that's not a good thing. I can
see when you're stressed, you fidget, you walk around, you change ideas. I don't think there's any of us that handle it better or worse. I think we're just stress is never a good thing.
Absolutely,
but it is unfortunately part of the business.
Absolutely,
I just think we've the fact that we're the dynamic duo. I think it just allows us to handle stress with each other.
You're right. We often do that where you'll come in my office and close the door, I'll come into yours, and we'll just figure it out together. Like, this is a problem. How do we handle it? What do we do? And it's a lot easier. Two heads are better than one. You hear the quote often. It's so true in what we do, because we're able to kind of calm each other down and say, okay, it is a problem, but there are options, as opposed to just trying to figure it out on our own.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. Who's the better negotiator?
Oh, boy. You know what? I thought of this one. I think it brings us back to when we were competing. In our negotiating styles, I think we're equally as good, but at different moments. And I'll say it, I think you're a lot better at me than me at the onset. People naturally, gravitate towards you. You make everything fun, easy. You're exuberant. You speak well. You think well. You have great ideas. I think I lose to you in that. Where I would win, I'll go in the past, wasn't the first or second meeting. It was the third or fourth. And I think that's where I'm better.
Absolutely. And I'll completely agree with you. You have the courage to walk away. And I always fear that. I'm like, oh, you know what, maybe we should give that extra $1 a foot. Maybe we should, take another extension. Maybe we should accept their condition. You're like, no, it's time to walk away. It's enough. And 9 out of 10 times, your decision's done well. So, before concluding this podcast, which I really appreciate, it's been a long time since it was just you and I talking about
can't remember
the journey. What if you're to share one brief reflection on this journey? What would it be? Like, what would be one story you can think of, or one thing that you want people to take away from the Rosefellow journey that we're on?
I think it'd be great that we sit back and realize how fortunate we were. That's the first thing. We've been very fortunate, but nothing was given. Everything we had to work at it. We had a lot of hardships, a lot of potential issues that could have completely destroyed our company, and forced us back, back to even worse than where we were before.
Absolutely.
I just wish I could convey, that what it's been like the first 5 years, seeing our company start from 3 people to 15 people, watching it grow, being worried about, oh my God, how are we going to pay for this salary? How are we going to pay? But for me, I would say the shining moment, as a company, was our Christmas party, I think about 2 years ago. And I remember we were 15, including ourselves. And we have the spouses join. And I remember we're in a restaurant and we were all sitting in a big square. And I remember we were 30 people. And I just remember you and I were sitting next to each other, and I was looking at it, I was like,
This is us.
This is us, and we're responsible for all this. And there was this great sense of joy, but I had also a lot of fear. I was like, oh my God, like it's not just Mike and Sam anymore.
You're right.
And our families who take the risk. There's 15 people, but there's husbands and wives there with children. And it was an eye-opening experience for me.
It, I don't think to this day I feel satisfied of what we've done. There's always room for more. There's always room for better. There's always room to improve.
Believe in better.
Believe in better. Our slogan is close to our heart. Believe in better. Not about being better than anyone, just being better than yourself, being better than you were yesterday. And I love that because it's so true to who we are. We're always trying to better every aspect of the business. And if I can give one recommendation to others is don't listen to what people are saying about you. Avoid the noise. We've been judged on every aspect of our business since day one, and you have to just clear out all that noise. We did some recent big moves in how we structure deals, how we've changed the way leases are looked at, and office build outs and free rent periods and moving costs. And people say, oh, they must be going through a hard time trying to come up with these solutions. No. We're always trying to be better, not just for ourselves, but for the industry, for the people we work with, for the brokers. And if you're to listen and take everyone's opinion, you'll be stagnant. You'll never grow.
It's interesting that you say, that you've heard that people are saying, well, they must be going through a hard time. And the fact that it's thankful, I'm very thankful of that. But if it was true, what is wrong with that? And that is when, most people should wake up and say, oh, something's going wrong. We need to change. And the fact that people don't, the fact that we're in a business that has basically remained the same, just, put a name, remove a name.
Archaic,
is right there is everything you need to know.
Absolutely. With that said, we encourage all listeners to subscribe, share the episode, and follow Rosefellow on social media. Thanks again for partaking. Thanks, Sam, for being an incredible brother, partner, friend for this incredible journey. Thank you.